Okay, so I wanted to do a video for what you can garden in hot and dry climates. This video specifically goes into raspberry plants. Raspberry plants are a really good option. You can get them to produce and work in hot and dry climates. You can't do every variety though. So you need to be selective about which varieties you're going to use. So I'll go into that now. First, which raspberry plants will work in hot and dry climates? The first list I pulled up uh, showed Autumn Bliss, Heritage, Polana, and Redpath. Then it also showed, it's kind of separated the list for some of the summer bearing raspberries, and it put Tulamine, Royalty, Chilliwack, and Chilcotton in that list. Um, Now, that list didn't really separate based on um, which are ever-bearing varieties and which are summer-bearing varieties, so I'm going to restate that according to that. Okay, first the ever-bearing varieties, and this is ranked by, first to last according to what that source, what I had read, with the list pulled up as being capable. And it started with Autumn Bliss, then went to Heritage, then to Polana, then to Redpath. That's what it showed for everbearing. For non-everbearing, okay, this is non-everbearing, Tulamine, Royalty, Chilliwack, Chilcotton. Now, if it was me, I wouldn't bother with the types that are not everbearing. And I can say that because I grow everbearing raspberries. I've had them for, this is probably my third year. Before I got into them, I had an aunt that had them, and that's what tipped me off with how cool they are and how amazing it is that you could have those and that they could be producing all year. Now, the catch is when you read about these plants, it's going to say that everbearing has two crops and that the non-everbearing just have the one crop. My experience is that it's different than that, and it has to do with your watering cycle and making sure they have fertility in the soil. If you have fertility in the soil and if you water every day, my experience was that you would get berries until winter. Okay, my plants just barely shut down. It's because we had the city shut off the water and it froze. Okay, they're not producing now that it's frozen, but they produced all year. I was literally eating berries almost every day, and they were delicious. It was the most amazing thing. Now, to give you an idea, I didn't work with all the kinds. I don't need to. I worked with double gold. The variety I have is double gold, and those are excellent. I can vouch for that one that it can work in a hot and dry climate, and that it's a very good plant, and it has a taller and larger cane structure. And that's what I'd also look for also, because the larger the bush of canes, okay, they're in canes, but they cluster together. It's not really a bush, but the canes kind of cluster together like a bush. And so the larger that mass of vegetation is, the more it can shade its roots. That's why you want a, a variety that you know for sure is going to work there. And I use double gold, so I can freely say that one can work. And then you having the shade around it, it helps the plants. Now, in my other videos, I've already stated that berry plants have shallower root systems than trees and other plants. And that's why some people have a harder time getting them to adapt to hot and dry areas or any other climate that has its own challenges. That's what you're working with. If you have that, you have to figure out how to protect these shallower roots from whatever the problem is that you're working against. So you could do double gold and that would be fine. Now, here's the catch. Here's the second catch. The second list that I pulled up did not agree with the first one. So I'm just going to give the second list, and you can do what you want. For example, the first list that I gave you didn't have double gold on you, and I told you double gold works because I've done them. But I do have to shield the root systems of double gold. It's possible that someone could try this and say it didn't work, and they didn't protect the root systems from the heat like I'm doing. I have wood chips and mulch and all kinds of stuff around my plants, all of my plants, to shield it from heat. And that lets me do a lot in a hot and dry climate. People in Arizona will tell you the same thing. There's some amazing gardeners in Arizona, and they religiously use mulching and wood chips or wood scrap or whatever to shield the roots. Anyway, this is okay. Now for the second list for hot and dry climates, heritage was at the top for adaptability, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they screened it very well for hot and dry adaptability. So I'm not sure I trust that one, but that one was at the top. Then Caroline was actually stated for heat tolerance. Latham, that it could handle some heat and could grow big and adapt. Nova, Nova gets missed on a lot of other lists and in other areas that state stuff. So I'm very curious about it. Sometimes the ones that aren't on the list are the best ones. Like double gold isn't on most lists, but it's extremely good. Then you have Dorman Red, Raspberry Royal, and Joan Jay. That's all I have for this on this particular video for heat adaptability and stuff like that and different types of air bearing. I will do some other videos later, but even though most people are winding down for the gardening season, this is where you can still use your time now to get educated and figure out what you want to do next year. So it's still worth your time to check things out and educate yourself.